Hello, welcome along to Bangkok ChitChat, the YouTube channel from Thailand, all about Thailand. And today we have another Pattaya report. They seem to come around really fast these days. And due to the pandemic, I'm broadcasting from my home. Andrew's in central control there in the studio. He's our stalwart there. And our Pattaya correspondent, Craig, is having some syncing problems, but he can hear us at least. He is zooming in from Pattaya. Hello, gentlemen. How are we?
Very good.
Good morning.
Okay, before you comment on the shirt, it's something that I can't wear when I'm in the studio with the green screen because there's bits of green all over it and I would have holes in me on recording the show.
That was lucky. That was lucky. Okay.
Yeah. Make your jokes. By the way, there's a headline. I know it's all about Pattaya, but this is national. There's literally breaking news as we do this, which will be a couple of days old by the time the show goes up, and never mind. Thailand's Department of Rail Transport has requested that passengers no longer talk on trains in order to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. Just thought I'd mention that.
It's a little bit like the Olympics, isn't it? And the Japanese, when they said they were going to allow supporters to go, but they wouldn't want anybody cheering or making a noise. Because, clearly that's another way that COVID-19 can be spread.
So, I mean,
and don't even talk about the Euro final.
People are wearing masks, so why can't they talk? But there is the recommendation to have double-layered masks, yeah. But, yeah, it's
just going to say that. I saw that about the double layer.
Yeah, so, I mean, anyway, it's just another thing to fill a void of some kind and authority, yeah. Anyway, so what's happening down in Pattaya?
Yeah, Craig. Yeah.
Obviously, I'd love to provide you with some more upbeat news and things are getting better, but sadly, they're not. I think a lot of people may have read that more stricter overnight restrictions have been brought into play, whereby pretty much from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m., although they haven't enforced a curfew, as such as they have in Bangkok, everything's closed. So kind of by default, other than sort of walking your dog or whatever, there's nothing to do anyway. So that's kind of moved on a step. Day to day, nothing's really changed. I don't think they've brought in any further restrictions on certain types of businesses being open. You're still allowed to dine in restaurants, although of course alcohol is still banned. Massage parlors are open, but my understanding is that you're supposed to only get foot massages and not other types of massages. And other businesses like my office here, I have no problem coming into my office and going about my daily business. But it's certainly, if you can work from home, it's also something which is being advised.
Did you say dine in? Dine in is allowed?
Yeah, dine in is allowed. They've never stopped dining in here. It's only Bangkok, I believe, and some of those surrounding provinces, Samat Prakan, Samat Sakon, etc. So yeah, since I lose track of the timings on these decisions that have gone through over the course, but when the more recent stricter measures came into place in Bangkok, whereby no dining was allowed, in dining at all, that never was brought in here.
So I also noticed that there was a report through the Pattaya Mail, and they said that there's no pairs or groups of people are allowed to congregate in public. So you got to pretend you're speaking to the person beside you when you're walking along the street.
Unless you're on a train, and then you can't talk at all.
You might not even be able to talk to your dog. So when you're walking your dog, so there's a restriction there as well. Yeah. What about the checkpoints? Because what I read was that the checkpoints have been set up more to stop people coming into the province from Bangkok. Yeah. But as we know in the past, that's been said that there's checkpoints, but when you've driven up or other people have driven up or gone back, they haven't seen any. Is there any news? Are they actually enforcing this or what can they do?
I've not seen any physical checkpoints, but then again, as I say, I've not travelled into provincial this week because again, I'm not 100% sure on what I am and I'm not allowed to do. I have the same as you. I've seen some media around it, And as you say, I think it was kind of almost like entering sort of main town Pattaya, if you like. There seemed to be checkpoints and temperature checks and that type of thing, and clearly trying to avoid people coming from Bangkok en masse and people without a valid reason. I mean, from what I can gather, I think just from a logistical point of view, when it comes to driving from, let's say, Pattaya to Bangkok or the other way around, it seems that if you take the highways, then there's kind of very little places that they can stop you. I mean, where can they stop you on a highway? You know, I mean, once you, apart from doing it at the toll, which would be absolute chaos, and they're not going to do anyway. It seems that it's only really if you're taking the circumvit, the sort of back roads, and staying off the main 7, that they can actually kind of implement a proper checkpoint, because otherwise there's nowhere for them to put it. So my thinking is not that I want to kind of, you know, do anything which isn't the right thing to do and not follow the rules. But my feeling would be if you were to get on the 7 and drive, you probably wouldn't have any issues.
Right.
I mean, the curfew thing also is, I think we're all old enough and been here long enough in Thailand to remember some of the coups in the past when there was a curfew, not on all coups, but some of the more severe ones where the military were in charge of the curfew. And there were, you know, the jeeps patrolling the streets, and it was very serious if you were caught outside of the curfew. From my take on it, and from people that I know have driven through the curfew time per se, whether they had a good reason or an irrelevant reason, doesn't matter, I'm not judging, they found nobody. They also didn't find anybody on the streets, but they didn't find any patrols, because this curfew is probably regulated by the police. Is that correct or not? Not the military?
Correct.
Yeah, that sounds a fair assumption. Yeah.
Okay, so
it's this, okay.
What about vaccinations? Sorry. I mean, I'll give an example from Bangkok. I mean, from Pattaya Hospital, Pattaya 2 Hospital, foreigners were told to go to their website to sign up a Google form, which I checked actually, and I thought it wasn't secure, but it is secure. Yeah. So when you go to it, basically they say between 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock you can register. But when you go to it, it immediately says full over quota. Now they've put a statement up, which we'll put up on the screen, which says they have an allocation of 100 vaccines per day, yeah, which gives implementation of 100 registrations per day, yeah, against a quota, yeah. So if you think about there's about 40,000 Brits alone, never mind in Thailand, and let's say 50% of them are in Bangkok. Yeah, how the hell are they going to manage to roll this out? Now, Samiti Vej is another recommended hospital, a hospital we've been told to contact, and people are saying they're not getting any answers either. But if they've got a quota of 100 a day, how is this possible? But it's very frustrating. I understand basically there's a vaccination supply issue, yeah. But why wouldn't they just collect the registration information so they can inform people, yeah, from whichever hospital they choose? But they have a database of it, yeah. So I think it's an absolute mess, and maybe we get into trouble for saying this, yeah. But they've got to sort themselves out, at least in the registration process, because it is extremely frustrating. It's extremely frustrating even in the UK, where there's going to be 1 billion vaccinations across the G7 sent out, and we can't even get anything even for our British government, whereas Japan and the French government are taking care of their citizens, yeah? But they can give it away, but they can't...
So this rollout you're talking about, Andrew, what? It's specifically aimed at
foreigners,
Brits,
yeah.
Or...
No, at foreigners, generally foreigners. But my point on that was there was the state, and I'll put it up on the screen. There was an allocation of 100, so I can actually probably read it to you.
My understanding, what I was reading was that everybody's kind of in it together, so to speak. There was none of this.
Well, I'll read it to you. I'll read it to you. Pattaya Hospital is only serving as a vaccination service centre to assist the government in ensuring that the population is inoculated. We are inclined to follow the guidelines set forth by the authorities. The quota of the vaccine is limited to 100 persons per day, with the government, which the government allocates to us, and only people who provide complete information and receive the SMS will be eligible to receive the vaccine. And then it says, please fill out the form below. But the link, if you follow the link, it takes you to another page which says, no, it's been closed. So that's since Monday I've been trying to register, and have not been able to do any time. So what's happening, and I hear, I think we all know people that have got it, they've gone through the back door to get it. They've got friends of friends.
Is this for Falang or Thai together?
This is for foreigners only. This is for foreigners only, because obviously a lot of foreigners don't read Thai, so this is for foreigners. So it's an absolute mess. It's terrible. I hate complaining about something with no solution, but I think the only solution is just come out and say you haven't got enough, and the expectations you'll have something by October or August. But it's a bit like the donkey and the carrot, It's cruel, where you're saying you're going to get it, but then you're not getting it.
Right, my question to Craig would be, is it different from province to province? Because I know a couple of people, and myself included now, because we have ties in Saraburi, where I am now on the list there, and I registered as a Falang there, because they have said, there are although I haven't got a date, they said you're now on the list, which is what Andrew's alluding to. At least say we haven't, the vaccines are not quite, we haven't got enough, but get on there and you get into a queue to take them when they're available. This is what I'm struggling to,
Well, that's right. That's what I've heard as well. I mean, I can't speak about what's happening in Pattaya because, or Chonburi province, because quite frankly, I don't know. I mean, one thing I do know is just a couple of guys who I'm on various, golf groups and whatever. I don't know whether that's because of their employer, but they've actually been going to Bangkok to get their doses. And I know certainly quite a few other friends of mine that obviously work in larger organizations, like the big banks or accountancy firms, then that seems to obviously be taken care of for those sort of people because they do it at a firm level. And the schools as well, the international schools. I know that rugby school where my son goes, they had all of their teachers vaccinated, but the vaccinations physically happened in Bangkok. But again, that would have been because of a connection rather than, sort of out to the masses. But one thing which is similar to what you were talking about with the Saraburi case is I was chatting to a client of mine the other day who's based up in Royette. And again, he was chatting to another expat who's based there. And the system there seems to be pretty sound in that, you do have to go and sort of collect your number. So this is Thais and this is foreigners, and it doesn't matter where you come from. You turn up at this hospital, you go and collect your number, and admittedly, you might go there and your number 836, and you look at the sign and it's like 140. But then there's an app which actually you can go onto and tells you whereabouts they are when it comes to the numbers. So therefore, they can then go, you can say, okay, well, this is going to be available for me Thursday, sort of sometime between, I don't know, a 3-hour window or something, between 11 and 2. I'll get myself back down there Thursday at 11, and that should be the right time for my slot. And that seems like a very sensible and doesn't sound too difficult a solution. That said, I'm guessing, the distribution of the vaccines, Royette clearly is a lot easier to manage because of the number of people, and this is not relevant to Palang or Thai, just the number of people, clearly to a situation like Bangkok where you've got millions and millions.
Well, they've also got when you go up country, a lot of the villages, because it's spread out, they have a clinic near a central clinic for a few villages, where we're talking about Bangkok, everyone's crushed and pushed together, so probably the distribution of health workers is probably a little bit easier, to manage, Maybe that's it. But I noticed for Pattaya, what I saw was there was 37,000. The mayor said that in Banglaman district more than 37,000 citizens under Section 33, blah blah blah. He said that there was 13,000 doses of vaccines were allocated to our district and planned to vaccinate 660 people daily. But my point was when he said citizens, yeah. So maybe I'm getting my high horse now because it just annoyed me regarding registration foreigners. But when they say citizen, that does not mean foreigner, yeah.
I think let's just face it, there isn't enough vaccines out there. These figures that you're talking about, like I know someone in Norway, all Norway's been vaccinated and they have a population of 4.5 million. You might say, well, that's a very small population compared with other countries. But we're nowhere near 4.5 million people have been vaccinated here. I don't know what the percentage is now, but it's terribly low. There just is not enough vaccines because we were promised the vaccine was to be produced in Thailand and they haven't come up with it. And that's the end of it, whether I'm allowed to say that or not. They haven't been able to manufacture it. And they haven't asked for, people are giving us help now. I think Japan are giving us some vaccines and da-da-da-da-da-da. So, that's the biggest problem is that we were promised to have home manufactured vaccines and they haven't materialized. That's what it is all about.
Well, I actually heard regarding that particular organization is that they're under restriction because they're actually manufacturing not just for Thailand, but for other nations as well. So, the first impression is, yes, we were getting this to be able to supply Thailand, yeah, but under the contract with AstraZeneca, they are manufacturing, but they're having to manufacture to distribute to other countries, yeah. So it's
we hope that politics doesn't continue to be a barrier, but because ultimately, I suppose, I think I've said this on the show before, I'm not scrambling about because I've heard those same sort of registration issues that people are having. I'm under the impression in 3 or 4 months' time, there'll probably be an overflow, and all being well, that will be down to the fact that, a lot of countries, like you mentioned, Norway 100%. By then, you'll have the UK at 100%. Probably a lot of other countries in France still got the ability to manufacture them. So therefore, it'll be that time they'll be able to share them out. But as you say, let's just hope that politics doesn't stop the inflow, because there will be enough globally, but then it's like a lot of things in the world. There's enough food globally, but people don't have enough to eat. So
I'm similar.
So, yeah.
I'm similar, but what annoys me is the expectation. If we knew that was the reality, it wasn't going to be till October. Yeah, that's fine. But it's the expectation, and then going to a site or whatever it is to try and register and not being able to do it every single time. Yeah. I think that is the annoying part. The second part is that what we're going to find
my
is we're going to need
expectation would be that it wouldn't work, so I wouldn't try it.
Right. And also, Andrew, you're saying that it's expectation, but it's also people here are seeing what other countries are doing, and they're going, "Why are we in this boat?"
Yeah. That's right.
That's the thing. And when why are we where we are?
Yeah, but when you see you see these people say, "Oh, I got my vaccination today," and you question, "Well, did you get that through registering, or did you get that through some other means?" Yeah, and that is.
It would have been other means. Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be, as you say, there's always going to be ways in. Usually, like I talked about before, a friend of mine works for someone like HSBC. I mean, that's done in the blink of an eye. What about all the diplomats and all the embassies? I mean, do you think they're going to be waiting around? And then you've got this chucked into the mix as well, haven't you? You've got certain countries who seem to be, the embassy and the diplomats are taking control. I think the French, possibly, I'd read something.
Yeah.
And other countries where they're totally.
China.
Some chap had put something on Facebook the other day about the British embassy, and it literally was as to the point as you could imagine. This is not our problem. We're not responsible for you. Not our problem. Go and sort it out yourself.
Okay, so some other news. Other news. I see not a happy one really, but the tiger zoo has closed. and they say that's permanent. Yeah. I'm just wondering.
What?
The Tiger Zoo in Sriracha, yeah.
Oh.
Has closed totally, permanently closed. And there was some mention of asking, where did the tigers go?
It's a very good question, yeah.
A few years ago, I would have said, in your tank. Now, that's an old joke, if any of you guys can remember it. Put a tiger in your tank. Do you remember that?
Esso, yeah.
I think it was Esso or Shell. Esso, put it. Okay. So my joke was, which nobody got apart from Andrew, Craig's a young man.
Anyway, so Kolarn, I see that they're building a new highway on Kolarn. How big is Kolarn? Maybe 5 kilometers square? Yeah, is that it?
I believe so. I mean, strangely enough, I've never actually been, but I was reading the same story you said, and also again they were talking about things being open as normal there, and it's probably a nice time to go, isn't it? With although I don't know what happens at 9 o'clock.
My point is, you've got a highway, a 4-lane highway being built across Kolarn, yeah, which is, I take it, was protected in some way. And just now, you can only get there by boat. Why? Because it's an island, obviously. And then they're building a port on the other side. So with regards to Kolarn, what they were talking about is they're going to build this road, but they haven't got permission from the residents on whether they can build the port. So you're building a road, 4-lane highway, yeah, across the island, and they say it's not going to affect the environment, yeah. And the residents haven't approved it yet, which means we're going to have this environmental issue again. So wouldn't they go and get the approval from the residents first before they build the road, and secondly before they start building the port? Yeah. So anyway, it was just a report which was out there. Yeah.
Well, no. Let's reply to what you just said. So you've got a big highway going into a beautiful island. It's all environmentally loving. That's why people go to the island. They just need to improve the ferry situation and let people, like they've been going for years and years and years, on an efficient ferry service. And then you don't need concrete pillars that's bound to come with a highway to spoil the island. I don't think that's right. Keep it to ferries. We all love going on a little boat, going to an island and getting the luggage. It's part of the island experience. You don't want to zoom down there on a 4-lane bloody highway.
No, this is a 4-lane highway on the island. So even if you're the 4-lane highway,
that's even worse.
Yeah, how do you get to the mainland? Isn't the point of having a port to ship stuff on mainland? They haven't even built the link, the bridge. Yeah. So anyway, maybe it's just been misreported. But when I read it, I just thought this doesn't make an awful lot of sense. Yeah. And somebody had gifted the land. And normally that means you gift the land, but you get the rights to build along the highways. So anyway, that was a little story different from COVID. And also to go back to a little bit, the food handouts. I see that the Pattaya officials were giving out food handouts. And the reason I brought it up was the picture that you see is horrendous, yeah, which is over 500 people sitting 2 meters apart on the beach to get the food. But at the end of the day, it might look horrendous, like concentration camp style, like I don't know, like a bridge over the River Kwai or something like that. Yeah, but they gave the food. They were giving rice, they were giving eggs and basic essentials. Yeah, but the picture gave a very. First you look at it and you go, oh my God. Yeah. But they were giving food out. So there was some support, but not enough support. I understand there's the homelessness situation in Pattaya is increasing. Is that correct?
Yeah. It's pretty grim when you walk down the street. I mean, there's you go bars and restaurants that used to be full of life. The signs are falling off. There's people just sort of sat in the doorways, staring into space. I mean, I think we've talked about it in other shows before. I guess what's happened now is, people that worked in the entertainment industry and tourist related, a lot of them will have gone, but there's always going to be some that are left. Either maybe they have nowhere else to go. Either they're wherever they come from, there's nothing left there, or perhaps they're from here. So I suppose the one thing is that you do have that one group of people that are left, but there's still too many of them that are struggling because, of course, they've got zero ability to generate an income right now.
I mean, a lot have gone back home to their home provinces. So let's sort of round this up, because we don't really want to spin out this this theme of like, where's it all going? But that would be my last question.
It's not going anywhere.
Well, that's my question to both you two, right? One at a time. Because I keep getting asked this question from people that want to come over for holidays and things. They've already sideswiped Phuket, thinking that's a waste of time. Who wants to go to Phuket for a nice holiday, and then maybe after 14 days can go to Thailand or whatever, and on their third day they get tested for COVID? It's a small amount, but that's going to spoil your holiday. That definitely is. So, okay, my point is, Pattaya, people not living in Thailand, when do you think Pattaya will be okay? Not back to where it's normal, because I think that will take more than a year or so to get running right. But when will people be allowed in? Restrictions sort of more free, so more back to normal, where bars will open. Can you? Okay, I'll go to Craig first, because he's from Pattaya. What do you think?
I think there has been a roadmap put in place, similar, using this sort of sandbox term that they've been using in Phuket, with a similar ideas for Koh Samui firstly, and then Pattaya afterwards. Clearly, Koh Samui and Phuket, it's easier to manage because it's in it's in an island and a confined area, whereas of course Pattaya is a lot more spread out. And then in that they were talking about October, following a similar protocol to what it was in Phuket, where tourists can come as long as they both had their vaccinations. But of course, it boils back down to what we were talking about earlier. In order for it to work in Phuket, they needed, I think it was 65% of the local population vaccinated. Getting to that 65% in Pattaya, and what is Pattaya? Is Pattaya Chonburi? Is Pattaya, Eastern Seaboard, et cetera, is clearly where we're going to struggle. And that's the key, as we all know. So if we get a good majority of people vaccinated in time for the end of or the first couple of, well, maybe the second or third couple of months of the high season, i.e. November, December, yeah, potentially the tourists can start coming back then. If we don't, then I guess the answer is no. We're going to have to wait until next year.
I'm sure you've got an answer to this, Andrea.
Yes, I do actually. Yes.
What were you? What's about with you?
I just actually just delay that a little bit. Anyway, yeah. So I think November. I think things will open up in November. But once again, it comes down to the vaccination and also how this Delta variant affects things, because I think people are going to have a third jab. Yeah. So there's the other factors that where they're going to be basically forced to do like what the UK's done, which is open up when even the COVID infections are increasing, and focus on the basis of hospitalisation, as opposed to the number of people catching it. Now Thailand's opened up a system of self-isolation. I think that will help that process.
They've been doing that for a long while.
So I think that's a step in the right direction. But as many say, you can't rely on people here to follow the rules, and even if they've got it, they'll just go out and walk around and don't really care, So yeah, that's really it. Right. You mentioned about Phuket. I just wanted to say about Phuket. Phuket is increasing. They've got over 4,000, nearly 5,000 visitors just now, and they've got 6 people that have arrived with COVID, and it's been caught. And I think this is a great test as part of the process of living with the virus. Now, it's not going to turn the Phuket into a Mecca or something like that. People will still be nervous. But a lot of people are coming, but they're coming for 2 reasons. One is, yes, possibly holiday, but the big one is business, and also they've probably got family here, and they might as well do their 14 days in Phuket, where they've got some freedom, then come straight to Bangkok. Because after the 14 days, they're free to go anywhere in Thailand.
Yeah. Okay, well, I see it like, first of all, just going back quickly what you said, Andrew, I think the Thais are very good at self-isolating, because I think they've been self-isolating for 18 months. They've been very aware aware of it. The point is there wasn't testing back in the day, and now there is. That's why we got figures. All I'm saying is that I can't see things turning back to normal until at least 65, 70% of the Thai population have been vaccinated.
Open and normal are two different things. Open and normal are two different things.
Yeah. But what I'm saying, no, my point, Andrew, is this. Without the vaccinations, we are an undesirable place to come. And as long as people know that, they're not going to come where 7 out of 10 people have not been vaccinated, as opposed to 7 out of 10 have. And unless we get the vaccinations, the quicker we get them, the quicker we can return on the road to normality. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
Oh, how about that? So, screw you. No, but you know what I mean. So, not screw you, screw the whole, I mean, I'm pissed off.
Well, with that shirt you've got on, you possibly could, but...
I'm feeling very, I was going to say a word then, but I won't. Okay, so listen. Craig, thanks very much, mate. You got through your Wi-Fi problems. You're still running a business down there. It's going to be hard, as Andrew is in Bangkok.
Yeah, we've got some pretty serious rain going on at the moment as well. Just looking out out of my window, it's the story where my office is one of those that floods very, very quickly. So within probably 15 minutes, I'll have to get my Wellington boots on, I think.
And the water wings. Craig, as always, thank you very much for joining us. Andrew, of course, as well, my co-host. But before we go, after this, next week, we will have something different from COVID, and it's all about drones, and especially for people in Thailand, what laws and permits you need, and which ones are the best to buy from beginners, etc., etc. So thanks, everybody, for watching. Hope we gave some sort of information to you. Keep on rocking, keep safe, and don't forget, it's Bangkok Chit Chat. See you guys.
See you later.
Thanks.